Talking about magnitude, possibly the biggest women's fight in boxing history. Biggest purses for sure, 6.1 million. We talked about it last week. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, once again delivered and once again controversial, Chris. We picked Serrano to win this fight. I'm sure we both felt like she got the short end of the stick. You were actually there. Tell us about that, the reaction by the crowd, and how the atmosphere was, because this was a great fight. It was a brutal fight. We'll talk about the cut. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, tell us a little bit more about the fight.
Of course, the atmosphere was electric. There was 73,000 strong in that building. I heard it from people, and I heard it from the people that know boxing in that ring. Oh, this women's fight is gonna be amazing. I heard the people that know boxing telling their mainstream casual fans like, hey, get ready for this one. This one's gonna be a barn burner, and exactly what it was. Gio, back and forth fight. I also felt that Serrano edged it. I'm a little mad because our predictions should have been rewarded with what we saw in that ring. We felt that Serrano was gonna have more will. She was gonna try to even that scoreboard, and I felt like she did. She won a majority of those rounds convincingly, in my opinion. Some competitive rounds, but overall, I feel like she did enough. Once we saw the decision, we heard the decision. It was the same sentiments. A lot of boos, a lot of people just not happy with that decision. They felt that Amanda Serrano did enough to win that fight, and I think Taylor's corner also knew that. So again, Taylor walks away with a minor robbery. I want to say, Gio.
Yeah, and let's see what the official scores were. Um, was it 95? Let me see. Let me confirm this. 90, yeah, 95, 94. Essentially all three judges. Amanda Serrano was able to get to Katie Taylor. I think stunned her in the first, at the end of the first. And then that cut happened. Let's keep it real. That Katie Taylor was fighting dirty. She, once the accidental headbutt happened, she kept rubbing her head on that cut. That wasn't an accident. If something happens over and over and over again, that's just not accidental anymore. I understand that in a fight, you got to do what you got to do to win. But that was pretty dirty, man. And look, I do think the fight should have been stopped. It was a brutal, a bad cut. I don't think Amanda Serrano has anything to prove to us. I think fighting one or two rounds with that cut proved that she's a warrior. If we didn't know that already, at this stage of her career, like I said, she has nothing to prove. I don't understand. A lot of times these corners, what goes through their heads. Obviously, the fighters are never gonna stop fighting. Sometimes you gotta save them from themselves. We talked recently about Tim Zhu and how his corner fumbled the bag. I think it was the same case in this one. Look, if they stop the fight and it's a no contest or whatever, it's a controversial decision, either way, they'll probably get a third back, Chris. They just got 6.1 million for this fight. If that fight ends early because of that cut, I'm 100% sure they would have made that fight happen again and they could have got another 6 milli. But instead, you allow your fighter to continue. You force them to fight with a handicap, blood in her eyes, like 50 said. 50 said, blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. She couldn't see, man. She couldn't see from that side. So, the fight is already tough enough already as is. Now with a handicap, um, you got to point fingers at that corner. You got to protect your fighter. I mean, that thing was brutal. I couldn't even look at it every time they were zooming into it. In between rounds, I was looking away. But yeah, I felt like a lot of people felt like Serrano did enough. She broke a record for punches landed. But according to the judges, she didn't. And once again loses by controversial decision. I think I think she should have got the nod. But I'm pointing fingers at her corner.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's moments where these corners just have to make a sensible decision, a business decision, I'd say. I understand that, they're fighters and they have this war mentality. They also don't want to let the crowd down. They don't want the crowd to boo them for stopping the fight. I understand all this, but as a corner man, you just got to be like, this is the best decision for us to make. Just trust me on this. I'll take the blame. I'll take that I'm the one that decided to stop it. Like, just trust me. And again, it's unfortunate that happened. You said earlier that Mario Barrios has connections. I know for sure Katie Taylor has connections, and I love Katie Taylor. I think she's great for boxing. She's a media darling, in my opinion, and she's just phenomenal. Her career is unparalleled. But in those moments, if you let this fight go, the 4 rounds, they're gonna find a way to kind of give it to her edge, and I think that's exactly what happened in this fight, Gio. Again, it's unfortunate. Um, the first fight, I feel like Amanda Serrano fell short slightly in this fight. I feel like she did like she did enough in a way convincingly to win this fight, and it sucks. It's unfortunate that it was taken away from her. Right now, she should be named, champion of the world after having, won in 6, 7 weight classes. She deserved to get this nod. And again, a little bit of blame goes to that corner. A little bit of blame obviously goes to the judges, and she deserves a third fight. And if she would have won this one, like you said, stop the fight, things would have been even one apiece. And then your third fight, you command a substantial amount of money coming in as a champion. So, the corner has to take responsibility for that one.
Yeah, and look, they could have used that streaming number to their advantage too as leverage. They could have said, "Hey,
Yeah.
look, 50 million were watching our fight." It wasn't quite the 60 million that were watching the main event, but they could have easily said 50 million people watched our fight. So you better pay us more money. So yeah, they definitely fumbled the bag. As I said, I'm not sure what that corner was thinking. You got to protect your fighter, man. Like, do you not care about your fighter bleeding out in that ring? Like, she was losing so much blood, she couldn't see. She kept getting tagged from that side. And as you said, Katie Taylor, did what she had to win. I picked Katie Taylor to win that first fight, and even then, I was like, she probably edged it out. She probably didn't. In this one, as I said, I think most people thought that Serrano won. And that's hard to do for a person like Katie Taylor to fight overseas and get the nod. That doesn't usually happen either. You know, but yeah, I just wasn't content with how she was using her head to her advantage against that cut. The referee only deducted 1 point, and if you take a look at Katie Taylor's hair after the fight, it was bright red, and that was all Serrano's blood. So yeah, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. Um, they both, I think at the end it was just all adrenaline, just throwing a lot of punches, and yeah, difficult to score, but it seemed like Serrano was landing the more effective punches. Obviously, that's kind of hard to say also when you see all that blood coming down her face, but it was from an uppercut. Sorry, an accidental cut, and it was also from Katie Taylor continuing to rub her head on that cut, and uh every single time that they clinched or they got close to each other, she was leading with her head.
Yeah, and again, Drew, that first fight, if I had to break it down in percentages, I feel like Katie won 52% of that fight to 47. This one, I felt like it was maybe 60%, 40%, or 55-45 in favor of Serrano, and then you get that point deduction. I almost felt like that one was the nail in the coffin. Of course, like you said, with that gash, you almost have to stop the fight because that even if you're winning certain rounds, the judges, they're gonna see that big old cut, they're gonna see that blood, and that can easily sway them. Like I don't understand the logic of of the trainers outside of the beliefs that, oh, my fighter's a warrior, she's not gonna want me to stop this fight, etc., etc. Dude, as soon as you see that, you should know that you're gonna have to win these rounds even more convincingly because even if you land what 5 punches to one, that one punch that Katie lands on that eye, it starts bleeding. Boom, that's gonna convince the judges right there and then. So again, I think these coaches they need to take some what do we call it? I don't know, some business. You know, what do you do in these situations? I get it. They're just there to train and do you know the heavy work, but yeah, man, if you're protecting your fighter, you're not just protecting their health, you're also protecting their bag. So again, unfortunate for Serrano.
Yeah, and look, this changed the whole fight. That's the thing. That cut changed the whole fight. Serrano didn't look like herself after that. She looked like, you know, at times she maybe got a little desperate, and rightfully so. If you can't see out of that eye, you feel like you got to end the fight now. She had hurt Katie Taylor already, so she probably felt like she could do it again. And that just changed the whole fight. So, yeah, I wasn't content at that. Not necessarily content at the final scorecard either. But yeah, I think for Taylor, obviously she retains those belts. Uh, she's what, 36, I think now. You gotta
Yeah,
you gotta wonder how much she has left. She's not the same fighter. It seemed like Amanda Serrano had a little bit more left in the tank. But I think that nasty cut and then again that controversial decision kind of I think that trilogy is off the table now. But you never know. They both got 6 milli. They got 50 million streams reportedly on Netflix. So you never know.
yeah. For me, it almost it's hard to sell a trilogy when you're down 0-2, even though you feel it's 1-1, and on paper it's 0-2. So it's hard to sell a third fight. I agree that right now it's off the table. It's fairly fresh. Maybe when the dust settles, 6 months pass, 8 months pass, you find another great main event, and you try to sell this one. Maybe they run it back, but it's hard to sell. If it was 1-1 a piece deal, easy sell the stuff. Like you said, you have all that leverage. How many people watched? Not just that they watched, but they were thoroughly entertained with that kind of bout. Sometimes we get fights where people hype it up and you're like, oh, you're gonna get sold on this fight, and it's a dud. It's flat. You know, you almost feel like as a purist, you're like, man, they made me look bad. But this one didn't disappoint. So it's possible to sell again, but 0-2, it's much easier to sell it if they have one win apiece.
Katie Taylor 38 to clarify. Serrano's 36.
Yeah, they're not spring chickens no more, deal. Up in their 30s.
No, but it was a great fight. It was a great fight. They delivered once again. It was exciting. I know some people were saying fight of the year. I'm sure it's going to be a candidate.